Alright, hello everybody and welcome to Top Shelf Reviews, where I, your lovable host, the Invisible Gunslinger number 1, sees how well a game stacks up. For the very first installment of this series, I've decided to review a game that I've had a very casual sort of relationship with over the last couple years, and that is Just Cause 2. In the past, I've really only played this game in little 20-minute chunks, long enough to crash a jumbo jet into a windmill, or to terrorize the town unfortunate enough to be closest to the main spawn. So because I've had such a good time with it before, I thought it only fitting that I should don my critical eye and see what more the game has to offer. But that's enough backstory, let's get right into the review of Just Cause 2. The plot, as it is centered around the big double R, Rico Rodriguez, who bills himself as the ultimate dictator removal specialist. But to be honest, this title is a little bit of a lie because he only spends 1% of his time removing dictators, and the other 99% of the time he's crafting a hellscape for everyday citizens like you and me. So, fittingly, Rico works for the US government, specifically a little agency known as... oh god, the Agency? Oh, this is gonna be rough. And he does this because... well, it's never really stated why he works for the agency. I mean, we know who recruited him, but we don't know how he justifies the wanton destruction he causes, what pushes him to really work for the government. There's no huge sense of patriotism from him, it's just kind of... he's just there. I guess he works for them because, well, it's just easier for the writers to say, it's American imperialism, than it would be to actually craft a reason for one man to take on an entire country's military on his own. So, at the behest of his US handlers, Rico is sent into a country that totally isn't the Philippines, I promise, called Panau. He's sent in the same way that a stick of dynamite is sent into a balloon factory. The goal of the game is to destabilize the country through various covert educational programs, eventually indoctrinating the youth of the nation into capitalism and eventually causing the overthrow of the government. Record scratch. Just kidding, assholes. You blow shit up. You blow up an endless amount of shit, over and over and over again, the same shit, again and again, endlessly into infinity. And you know what? When the same 3 army dudes get mad at you and come knocking on your door, yelling at you for blowing their shit up, you shoot them, or run them over, or blow them up until you can resume blowing stuff up. There is a story, but you know what it just boils down to? Rico, go do this thing, blow them up. Rico does it, and then he goes, sheesh. That's it. Once you've blown up enough stuff, you're going to gain access to 3 of the worst human beings on the whole planet and become their loyal tornado of wanton destruction, because Rico can't simply just go and assassinate the resident dictator who's so threatening that his name is Baby. He has to sign a blood oath that sacrifices an entire nation to violent drug-dealing deviants before he can even begin to think of taking on Kim Jong-un and Lord Farquaad's love baby. And his chameleon. Helping the island's little mini Hitlers will eventually unlock more story missions and help you finish the game. But let's get away from the story for a second. My brain needs a break, and I think all of you do, because nobody gives a shit about the story. We want to hear about the gameplay, and you know what? It is an immediately satisfying and overall cathartic experience once the tutorial mission is wrapped up. But after that, you're free to explore the entire map from the word go, and oh my god, you can wander the landscape looking for anything and everything, while sowing explosions and burnt out cars wherever you may go. Experimenting with what antics you can accomplish is some of the most fun you'll have in the whole game, and it allows for quite a bit of creative moments. The biggest draw of the game is its grapple hook mechanic though. That shit's amazing. You can attach yourself to vehicles, walls, and anything else that moves, and you can attach anything to just about anything else. Tying a 40-year-old peasant woman to her taxi and then continuing her commute route while her flesh is slowly stripped away by the hot, uncaring pavement. Oh my god, it's just a joyous thing to behold. However, I hate to say this, but I really wish the developers had done more with it. They really could have expanded the hookshot's abilities, its range, or even its strength. I mean, imagine a situation where you could maybe electrify your hookshot or make it explode to where you attach it. I know that sounds really broken and kinda stupid, but so much of the game is already busted as hell, why not add that extra spice? People have already modded the hookshot to be longer than the game wants it to be, and let me tell you, after messing around with that, it is a whole new experience and it's more madness than I can even express. But in the vanilla game, once you've explored what you can do with the hookshot, it never changes or evolves throughout the entire course of the game. The good news is that when you eventually cause enough chaos by screwing with the lives of confused mortals, you can unlock new weapons, missions, and vehicles. I absolutely must bring up the gunplay because it is super fun to just run up to a guy and blast him out of his shoes with a shotgun, or just juggle him in the air with a machine gun. It's crazy. The remote bomb and the rocket launcher are particularly fun to use, but their ammo limit means that you'll be calling the black market for refills very often. Another thing that mars the gameplay is that there's only about 4 different kinds of army guys to kill. Imagine if you were in a Pokemon game and you only got to fight Team Rocket from start to finish. The whole game through, you're just fighting Rattatas, Koffings, and maybe an Ekans that'll yell at you in a comedy accent. I mean, there are ninjas, but those are strictly limited to about 2 story missions, and the rest of the time you're just shooting the same exact dudes with the same exact guns. And it's fun for a long time, but honestly, after about the 5th hour, it's over, and the game just keeps going. It expects so much time investment from you if you actually expect to finish it, let alone go to 100% completion, but I'll get to that point later. Instead, I really want to talk about some of the vehicles you can come across because, my goodness, some of the more unique vehicles are amazing, if very limited. A lot of them have enough horsepower to even make Catherine the Great blush. You can just zoom your way through the map, which genuinely feels as big as a country. Even with some of the most powerful vehicles, it still takes a long time to get through the map, but that's okay because the driving feels wonderful. It's awesome to see yourself really go fast, and it feels fast. The main problem with driving is that you simply won't be able to hold on to any unique vehicles for longer than 10 minutes without either crashing them, blowing them up, or having them despawn when you leave them to go blow stuff up. While you have them, it's some of the most fun you can have in the game. But even with these fun cars, it must be said that even those cars don't stop the races from becoming boring. They aren't even really races, they're just time trials that are scattered all across the map. But I suppose that's all for the best, because if they actually put you up against an AI opponent, God knows the AI in this game would be a terrible racing opponent. They can't even be relied on to fall into a fucking hole in the ground reliably, let alone beat us in a race. But hey, at least the game has some absolutely lovely visuals to gawp at while you're plowing through suicidally slow-moving motorcyclists. The game presents a wide variety of environments with forests, deserts, snowy mountains, and beautiful beaches abound. But you know, as I explored these areas, a revelation dawned on me that was pretty shocking. There's no animals anywhere in this whole game. There's no cows, pigs, snakes, tigers, bears, anything. This is the fucking jungle, right? We're out there, man, and there's nothing. There's not even any bird sounds really in the forest. At the very least, they could have thrown in maybe some monkeys. Come on, don't tell me that this game, or any game, couldn't be improved by some mischievous monkeys thrown in. I mean, think about it. Rather than just despawning your car, they could have had it so that maybe if you leave your car alone for long enough, a monkey will come in and drive your car off a cliff. If they had done that, this game might have become my most favorite game of all time. Regardless of that lack of monkey mischief, the game still impresses in most areas. The skybox in particular demands some heavy praise for having some of the most awe-inspiring clouds and sunsets I've ever seen in a game. And it's a big skybox too. If you fly to the top of it, you can skydive for full minutes as you plummet all the way back down to Earth. The game is gigantic. It feels huge. And I do have to admit that some of the missions can be extremely exciting or funny, but not both. One standout mission involves having to chase down and destroy a big-ass rocket that's trying to be launched into space. The resulting explosion was a visual extravaganza, even in a game that specializes in blowing shit up. There was also this other time where I had to escort this lady in a pink limousine, and, well...
Oh no! It's Boom Boom! He will kill us all! Please get me out of here!
Sadly though, these are some rare examples. Many of the faction missions are totally forgettable and can just be completed in a matter of minutes. They usually involve meeting with one of our terrorist buddies, finding out who pissed them off today, and getting sent out to annihilate a few people. There's also no big payoff for doing these story missions. I mean, yeah, you get some money and some more chaos, but the closest thing you get to closure is choosing which of the 3 gang leaders gets to accompany you on the second to last mission. And all that really is just choosing who talks into your ear during that mission. There aren't any conclusionary missions for any of the factions, and they just sort of peter out. They just run out of stuff to give you, and they don't even say thank you. There's no, like, oh, come to my base and see what you help us build, or anything like that. You don't get to command any of your goons to come and help you. There's nothing, it's just, well, you did them. Yeah. The strangest and most unique mission by far is when one of the faction leaders sends Rico to find a cargo transporter whose plane has been brought down in an odd little corner of the map. I can't even begin to do justice to this weirdo situation, so I'll just let the pilot himself do the talking.
We were blown out of the sky a few days ago, La, and I've been trying to reach you since. But there's some sort of antique electromagnetic pulse device here. And this is the great part. It was installed by the Japanese Imperial Army in World War II, La. And guess what? They're still here. Yes, I'm not joking. It's a bunch of insane 100-year-olds with rifles and cannons who think the war is still raging outside. They shot us out of the sky, Gawan, and all my brothers were killed. So after this little adventure, you can tell that Sri Irawan that he'll have to pay me a lot better to keep doing this stuff.
Do me a favor, pal, and shut up. What the hell?
This is it. Emperor Hirohito's secret weapon. Some kind of infernal device which sinks boats and sends planes crashing to the ground.
I've seen some crazy things in my life. But hey,
This raises so many questions. I mean, for God's sakes, how does an island of centenarians manage to survive alone on an island for 50 years and maintain their weapons in pristine shooting condition and power their super mega electro death machine so well after so long? Like, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered here, or at least addressed, but you know, after this mission, it's never brought up again. Not even once. After this mission, the whole thing just goes away and they're just there, and you know, we're just left to kind of ponder that. So, you know, I'm just gonna shut up about it, because that's what Rico told me to do. By the way, this is apparently what a 100-plus-year-old Japanese man looks like. This is the point where I have to tell you that Just Cause 2 has a lot of pointless content, primarily in its environment. There are whole islands that have no inhabitants, no buildings, collectibles, roads, or anything at all. The same applies to the entire ocean, which, while it has an incredible depth and beauty to it, it is squandered by having nothing in it. I've heard there are a few small Easter eggs scattered about, but I never encountered any of them during my playtime, and in a map this size, I'm totally unsurprised that I or anybody else could miss them. Now I want to talk about one feature that I didn't discover until about 12 hours in. Throughout the game, you come across elite colonels who are just basically beefed up regular enemies with a little bit more health and a little bit more armor, but they all have unique names. Now I couldn't figure out why they would have these names because they all look, act, and shoot the same. But when you look into the logs, you find that each one of them has a detailed character bio, which lists certain character quirks, loyalties, and oddly detailed personnel logs. I really want to give praise to whatever writers were tasked with coming up with such interesting bios. If only the colonels themselves personalized any of these qualities listed in their bios. Seriously, it doesn't matter if one colonel likes cutting his cocaine with his own dandruff or has a crippling fear of being a bad father. They all look and act and they're the same dude, repeated over and over again. Once you eventually become bored of shooting the same 3 endlessly spawning government troops, you begin to dick around with the game's engine, seeing what glitches you can trigger, and boy, howdy, does this game have a lot of glitches. The funniest glitch that I came across was when I skipped through a cutscene that I'd already watched, where an ally is being held in a torture chamber, but I skipped through the cutscene so fast that Rico himself got loaded into the torture room and watched with dead-eyed approval. That shit was hilarious. There are so many glitches that there's even a lengthy wiki page dedicated to just glitches. And it would be one thing if there was just a few glitches, but there's honestly well over 50, and I don't know if any of them were really patched out. Some of the glitches include disappearing civilians, invisible enemies, self-catapulting citizens, and Rico's disappearing left arm. Speaking of Rico, let's talk about what's wrong with him from a purely gameplay perspective. He never really feels like he becomes more powerful throughout the course of the game. Even with gun and health upgrades, you can still easily get overwhelmed in a firefight. Here, for example, let's take a look at what our health is at the beginning of the game versus what it looked like after 30 plus hours of playing. Wham. Even when you have the best guns in the game, the rocket launcher and the assault weapons, you run out of ammo really fast, and you can't order more ammo from the black market unless you've already cleared out all the enemies from an area. Meaning you either have to scramble around and try to pick up the guns that the enemies have dropped, or you have to run away, wait until the heat dies down, buy some weapons from the black market, and then go back. And you can't just order ammo itself. No, that would make way too much sense. Instead, guess what? You get to order the whole gun again, even though you're holding the gun, and you just pick up the ammo from it. And you know what? It costs a pretty damn big penny. And if you do this enough, it quickly drains your cash, meaning that you don't have enough money for vehicles anymore, meaning you have to steal other people's much slower vehicles instead of the ones that you've been upgrading throughout the game. When you run out of cash, you can get more by either finding it in crates, completing missions, or winning races. Races can be done as often as you want, which means that they are a source of infinite money. This creates a situation where if you don't hoard your money, you'll be repeatedly doing the same races to get cash, to get the weapons or the vehicles that you want or just need for any given situation. But enough of the gameplay, let's get back to Rico himself. I hate how Rico's appearance doesn't alter in any way throughout the whole game. When you spend this much time looking at your character from a third-person perspective, some visual variety is pretty much required. Even just a basic Hawaiian shirt or maybe a t-shirt would have made things so much better. Hell, why can't I put Rico in a salmon suit? Do you know how much more fun I would be having if I could use the grapple hook as a pretend fishing line to grapple myself around and pretend I'm a hooked fish? That would be amazing! And there's really no excuse for this either, because Just Cause 2 came out in 2010. Allow me to list off some third-person perspective games that do give you some costume changes and that all came out before Just Cause 2. On top of not changing visually, Rico also fails to evolve throughout the course of the whole game. He has no character arc, he barely seems to care about what he's doing, and he has the same bland, pissed off, shoulder shrugging, "don't touch me you scum" attitude from beginning to end. There are only 6 story missions to speak of, if you exclude the tutorial mission, and initially things seem very promising. On top of trying to liberate the country, Rico is also on the lookout for his former handler Tom Sheldon, who's been turned traitor. Ooh. And, spoiler alert, Tom isn't actually a traitor. No, he's just so fucking annoying that I'm surprised Rico hasn't shoved a rattlesnake down his throat. I mean, the game tries to get me to believe that Rico can put up with Tom Sheldon's yeehaw Texas attitude, let alone come to admire him? Are you kidding me?
Sheldon, I didn't know you still had it in you.
Rico, buddy, I'm as American as apple pie. And you know all real Americans hate commies.
The way that Just Cause 2 half-asses its plot is simply maddening, because it doesn't do it in the same way that shitty pornography movies do it, where, you know, we all know what we're here to look at, and there might be a plot, there might not.
You would like to cut some cane with me, huh, Scorpio?
But you know, Just Cause 2 actually tries to get you to care about the characters that you're seeing. Tom Sheldon and Rico do have some kind of personality, but they're so two-dimensional and stereotypical that it's just painful. So many of the characters are either racial stereotypes completely forgettable, or have hilariously awful voice acting, or are a combination of all of the above.
Oh yes, most definitely. You just show us where.
This brings me to the biggest problem that I have with Just Cause 2, that its development resources have been tragically mismanaged. Where did all the time and effort go into? The size of the map! The size of this map could have easily been cut in half and literally nobody would have complained. Not if the developers had taken the time to make better guns, more varied enemies, maybe some mini-games, maybe some more interesting faction missions, or hell, just cut out a whole huge number of the faction missions and just make them better. Or hey, why not put some character development towards Rico? Maybe some equipment upgrades, maybe the grappling hook upgrades, maybe some costumes, maybe some wildlife, or just anything other than, let's make the biggest map in the world! This game could have been so much stronger if they had a little bit more focus, or if someone had the courage to say, hey, maybe we don't need a map that takes 45 minutes to drive from one end to the other. Now here's something really annoying. Okay, so let's say you want to upgrade your vehicles, your health, or maybe your guns. In order to do this, you have to run around and collect these things called resource parts, which are very specific little crates placed around the map. And they're not just like an end-all currency, like, oh, you have so many resource points, so you can put it towards your vehicles or weapons. They are very specifically set to, okay, this is a vehicle resource part, this is a weapon resource part, okay, you have this many, now you can upgrade your stuff. Where this becomes a problem is that you're not so much searching for them as you're hoping you get close enough to them for these little arrows, these little guide arrows to kind of point you in the right direction. When you get within, like, I don't know, 15 feet of them, it'll go, hey, look, there's a resource part over here if you want to get close enough to it. So it turns into this really kind of half-assed Easter egg hunt, and it's really okay for a while. You know, hey, look, I picked up a resource part. Hey, this is a weapon one. Okay, great, I'm gonna get to upgrade my weapon. Awesome. The problem is that in order to upgrade your guns to level 6, the maximum, it takes a lot of resource parts. So here, you know what, here, why don't you guess? Take a guess how many resource parts it takes to get from level 1 to level 6. How many? Ding, 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 it's 75. Yeah, you need to get set just for one gun. Just for one gun, you need to collect specifically weapon resource parts. If you collect vehicle upgrades, oh, whatever, that's great. You're eventually gonna get your vehicles up, but if you're specifically looking to upgrade just a gun, you're gonna be running around like crazy trying to find these things. It's ridiculous. It's extremely time-consuming and blatantly just not fun after a while. I can't tell you how many times I ran around the same sort of army base, just blandly blank-eyed, looking around, hoping that I'd find a resource part, because you know what? I wanted to get my rocket launcher up. I wanted to get some real power in there, and it just took forever. I'm not complaining about grinding at all. I've grinded in other games. For God's sakes, I beat Final Fantasy XII, for fuck's sake. But this game is just, you know, you get such high-octane, crazy fun, you get addicted to it, and you're like, hey, you know, this is really great, and then you just have to stop the action, completely drag it to a dead halt in order to run around, collect these weapons, because you know what? The game does get kind of overwhelming, and you want some more weapons, or hey, you just want your vehicle to go a little bit more fast, you want to get it more powerful. That's awesome. That's what the whole game is, it's trying to get you to do. It's trying to get you to be part of this power fantasy, but then it holds you back with these rampant, crazy upgrade requirements. And that's really what I want to say here, is that the game is fun. What I've been showing you guys is fun. But what I've been showing you guys is only a small fraction of my total gameplay. I have cut out dozens of hours of me doing pointlessly boring shit, just doing nothing interesting, and it took me forever to get this footage because, yes, it is really fun in moment-to-moment gameplay, but if you engage with this game, if you really try to like get into it and get involved with it, it constantly holds you back and pushes you away, and it's just maddening. But how did I feel after I finished the game? Well, let me sum it up like this. Once we've literally strapped Baby Panau to a nuclear bomb and blown him up, enjoying a comedy cocktail and the nuclear fallout while we're at it, Rico now enters mercenary mode, which is shorthand for, the story's over now, how crazy was that, now go collect everything. And the game does mean everything. The game alerts you to your progress percentage in the middle of the screen every time you do anything that increases it, even by 0.01%. That means anytime you do anything, it tells you, mercenary mode, percentage, bleh. Do you want to guess how much progress I had made after I had finished the main story, all of the faction missions, and had spent at least 15 hours collecting and racing all over Panau? Take a guess, I'll give you a second. An almighty 46%! That's right, the collectibles and destructibles take up at least 50% of the whole entire game. But do you want to know the best part? The real cherry on top of this shit sundae? The game is glitched. A few of the water towers and collectibles have been left out of the game, making it impossible to reach a 100% completion without modding the game. This means the only thing left to do is pointlessly destroy, kill, and collect. And you know what? The gameplay is simply not fun enough to warrant such a time investment. And what's even funnier is that the destruction Rico causes after the end of the game is completely counterintuitive to his job. With the dictator Baby dead, it's already been established that a US-friendly leader will be appointed to lead Panau and give the United States first dibs on its oil and resources. So why is Rico destroying those oil reserves, natural resources, weapons, and military forces of a country that is willing to directly benefit the United States? I suppose the title Mercenary Mode is pretty fitting because it seems like Rico refuses to step down and will not rest until this entire country burns to the ground. But you know what? After spending such a long time living in this world with him, I can fully sympathize with his obsessive-compulsive bloodlust, even if I don't think this country is worth burning down. So because this is my first review, I briefly want to explain how I plan on rating the games that I talk about. Now, I'll be honest, I really don't like the 1 out of 10 rating scale that a lot of reviewers use to rate games, and I don't like the 5-star system, and I don't like this, oh, well, this is how likely I am to buy it kind of thing. You know, none of those I really like or want to use for my own channel, so what I've done is I've come up with a whole different system called the shelf system, because everyone has their own way of organizing a shelf. Some people just do it alphabetically or by year or whatever, but for me, I organize stuff based on how much I like it. You know, if I put something up by my eye level, then hey, that's great, I really want to look at that game, I want to remember it, it's great. The lower it is, the less I care about it, and the less I want to see it and remember it. So very briefly, the categories that I'm going to be using are as follows. We have the masterpieces at the top, below that are classics, below that is a category I'm going to call the good boys. You know, these are flawed games, but they're still good experiences, you know, these are good guys. Below that are games that I'm going to call a juvenile and very childish name. I'm going to call them my poopy pals. You know, they're shit, they're really crummy, they're down by the dust bunnies, they're right by your feet, they're going to get splattered with mud, but you don't really care. But you don't want to throw them away either, because there's just something about them that is kind of endearing, or you go, oh, you know what, I'm not going to throw this away right now, I'll hold on to it, maybe for later, maybe someday I'll go back to this, or show somebody this, just so we can have a laugh. And finally, this last category isn't even on a shelf, this is just the fucking, this is the burn box, this is stuff you just throw away, you light it on fire, you go, you fucking son of a bitch, how dare you waste my time, go into the fire, maybe you'll be more useful as ash. So now that that's all established, I need to decide where Just Cause 2 goes. Despite having such a strong beginning and very enjoyable chunks of gameplay, I've been left incredibly bitter over the repetitive nature of Just Cause 2. So when it comes to my shelf, I'm gonna have to put Just Cause 2 on the level of Poopy Pal. I'm sorry, Just Cause 2, I really like you, that's why I'm keeping you around, but don't touch me ever again.
A man likes to be appreciated for more than his suckling pig.
Okay, hi guys, I just wanted to say a humongous big thank you here at the end of the video. Like, if you watched this whole thing, you're amazing, and I really appreciate it. Like, seriously. This is a new kind of format for me. I've really just been doing Let's Play videos for the past, like, I don't know, even like 6 years or something like that. So doing this kind of format where I have to write a script and really get my thoughts, you know, structured was really nice. It was great to finally have the time to really think about what I want to say instead of just going, you know, off the cuff. So if you really liked the video, I'll be doing more reviews in the future. Maybe put me on your list, like the video, something, I don't know, whatever social media stuff you want to do, whatever YouTube has people do these days. But really, I'm just thankful that you guys watched the video. So anyway, yeah, I'll be doing that. And as I said, I do Let's Plays and stuff on the video, or on the channel, rather. So if you like this kind of stuff, maybe check me out. If not, then have a great day. I've been the Invisible Gunslinger #1, and until the next time we check the shelf, this has been Top Shelf Reviews, and I'll see you then. Bye. That was kind of a lame outro, but whatever, I'll work on it.